Welcome to the Sustainable Creator, Coley. We are so excited to have you as our first guest. Welcome to the pod.
Thanks. I'm so excited.
So, y'all, if you don't know Coley, she is what I call the Pinterest queen, among many other things. She wears many hats, but Pinterest, you are so brilliant at it. And I love seeing all of your content around how to use it. And so, we can't wait to hear more of just how you think about Pinterest as a marketing platform and whatever other side tangents we get on. But first, to back it all the way up, can you give a quick intro? Who are you and what do you do? And any other fun facts you want to add to the table?
Yeah, so I've been in the blogging space for 10 years, which is wild, but I started with an online magazine and then about 5 or so years ago started teaching people how to do blogging and Pinterest the way that I learned how, but also like kind of pivoting to more creatives who weren't just bloggers, which is kind of like the main thing I would say that bloggers would pivot to is teaching other bloggers. But then I realized so many creatives were just using Instagram. So that is kind of how I got into the teaching and Pinterest management, blogging management side of everything.
Kind of like big picture, what does business look like for you now? Because I realize you're doing multiple things, and it's always interesting seeing like where the multi-passionate lies.
Yeah, it's been a journey of figuring out how to prioritize like the magazine, podcasting, like kind of media side of everything with the management because they're so different. This year, I feel like I'm actually getting a good grasp of it, of doing my creative thinking in the morning before doing any client work. And then also outsourcing quite a bit of the management side. So I'm just sort of overseeing a lot of the strategy and then building a team up to take on more of that over this year. But yeah, I've created a morning block for myself. Every morning, it's like a 2 hour time where I can just dive into certain aspects of the side of the business that is more like creative and fun because I really, for years, was not prioritizing that and it would kind of take the back seat.
I can relate to that. A lot of this year I've been talking about with some of my friends as being our hobby year. Like, how are we bringing more hobbies into our life and incorporating more play? Because, same. I am curious with your like getting into Pinterest and marketing and blogging. Did you have an aha moment with a client or a particular moment that made you realize, oh, there's something to this with Pinterest in particular that made you go all in on it?
Hmm. I would say it was probably for myself. When I started blogging, I had heard that Pinterest was a good way to do it. I wasn't even on Instagram or anything else. It was just kind of blogging. And then I had a pin go viral. I think one of the early pins that I've had go viral still gets circulated, which was really funny to me because that really shows you the longevity of Pinterest right there. But it was that moment because from there it continued to grow for like years and years and years from that
Mhm.
tipping point. So that was really what made me realize like, oh, this is a powerful platform where your content continues to last, which I still don't really see in any other spaces because of
Right.
it being a search engine.
Well, that kind of leads perfectly into the next question, which is it worth marketing on Pinterest as a service provider?
Yeah, I mean, there is aspects that I would feel every creator would need to have in order for it to be successful. I think you need the kind of content that is going to do well on Pinterest, which requires a discoverability aspect. Like people need to be able to find you based on what you are creating. And so that's why even in 2026, like blogging is still really powerful because it gives you a full resource to send people to that a lot of content still it doesn't work as well on Pinterest because Pinterest is looking at your website. So it wants to kind of verify that you are a legit source. And it couldn't do that through social media. I think it's working on that. And that's why I think there's like a push to Instagram right now, but I don't think it's as powerful. So you need blog posts, is what I'm trying to say. You
Mhm.
don't need them, but I think that they are a huge asset to being able to think kind of more like a search engine with your content.
So if you were to kind of just like put like the general content types into buckets, like is there like in your like frame of reference when you work with clients of like these are good types of things for Pinterest and these are bad types of things for Pinterest?
The generic stuff is what's going to come to mind first for a lot of people. We've taken submissions for the online magazine for so many years. That is always my critique, is make it more specific. I think specificity in your content, whether you're adding timeliness, right? Like, why is this relevant for the current year we're in? Or how to get something done in a certain amount of time, or use a specific tool. Like, people are looking for more specifics than ever because there's so much content, because there's ChatGPT, because there's so many resources for the basics. Nobody needs that anymore. But I do think for some reason it takes us an extra step to get there of the specificity that we need for our content, because I don't know why. I think we think a lot in broad terms, especially with blog posts. So that's always my biggest thing.
Well, it's interesting. We were talking earlier about how with a platform like Pinterest, and I think this applies to a lot of things, it can feel so daunting and overwhelming. Like you don't know what you don't know. And so I know a lot of our clients and members inside of the break room just have this big question mark on how do I even use Pinterest? Like, where do I even start? Which is such a loaded question, right? Which I'm sure you have like a bunch of rabbit holes you could go down in answer to that question.
Can I start with kind of like a more general of like if people know like the normal feed based like Instagram or TikTok social medias, how is Pinterest different than that?
Yeah.
Pinterest is different in the way of how people engage with the platform, right? So a lot of people are planning for specific things when they're going to Pinterest. I think we all probably understand that from a user perspective of being on the platform. You're saving for images for a trip, or, like outfit ideas for specific occasions. Like, it's all kind of based in that. So helping train your brain into thinking about what are people going to save, and then also what are people going to click on. Those are like two very different things. And so that's how I often categorize content on Pinterest. Is it click worthy or is it save worthy? Save worthy helps you get visibility. It helps Pinterest push out your content. So you do want content that's just going to be saved to somebody's board. And then once you have that, you want people to go in and click your content. So it changes the way that you think about content, but at the same time, a lot of content is repurposable. So to go off what you were saying, Joe, of like the overwhelmingness of Pinterest, you're probably already creating content that would work on Pinterest. And so that's what I try to tell people. And the other aspect that I think makes Pinterest really different is you can reuse content over and over again with different positioning. So you're taking the same blog concept, you can frame it into multiple different ways, especially if you're creating, like, let's say a bigger blog that's like a how to, I don't know, let's using Honeybook, let's say, right? Let's say your blog post has like a checklist within it of some kind. You can break down all of those different things that you talk about within the blog into different pins. You can also change the headline that you're doing. You can change the visuals. Like, it gives you a lot of room to experiment with the same piece of content in different ways over time, right? Like, you want to schedule them out. But I think that makes it an amazing platform for creatives, because we're spending so much time creating content, but with all these other platforms, they're dying off really fast.
Yeah, that is really interesting. I'm curious on a very niche question, because it sounds like you like to approach Pinterest in tandem with blog posts. Like, that's a really happy partnership. If I'm thinking about the click factor, I guess I have two questions here. One, are there ways to increase that click factor? And two, when they're clicking out, have you found that there is a specific outbound link that does better or performs better, like blogs versus an email list versus a sales page or something else?
Yeah, so you have to give them a reason to click. So a lot of times when you're posting just an image, so like an image of an outfit or from a photo shoot, that would be more directed toward a save because people wouldn't know what they would get when they go to the website, right? Versus a pin that has a graphic that says like a checklist for something, you're going to want to go over there because you know that that's where the checklist is going to be. The same can go for an outfit photo, but you need to like make it clear like this is what you're getting when you're going to click through, like glasses or whatever it is that you're trying to
It's not
drive
just
somebody
info.
toward. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Because honestly, a lot of the way that I'm seeing younger users, I think, use the platform is they don't always even know that they can click. So like you can you can make it more clear, right, with your visuals of like the graphic that you make in Canva or whatever, like put a call to action on it, like you can get this. And so that can also work toward what you're saying with how the experiences when they get on the platform. So what would work best would be like a blog post, and then within that blog post having an opt-in within the blog that's relevant to that same thing. And what you could do is have your graphic say, get the free guide or get the free audio training, but the post might be something else. And then you're like, plus get the free training, right? So you're giving them like
Mm-hmm.
multiple reasons, or you have the checklist details in the pin itself. Sorry, this is so micro, but
No,
hopefully
I
it's
love
Oh,
helpful.
this. Keep
this is
going,
great.
please.
You have like, checklist right there. So they're already getting value within the pin, but then you say on the pin graphic, plus grab the free guide. And so then they're like, oh, value, but also I can get something when I click through here.
I love how you just connected all those dots. That was amazing.
So, like for me, my nerdy question now, you made a comment like whether you're building it in Canva or you're thinking about your graphic, you put the call to action kind of on the graphic itself. Like if you think about in like Instagram terms, you have a carousel and then you have a caption. On Pinterest, does like the caption part matter that much?
I was also wondering that.
So the caption part is your SEO. So there's so many factors that Pinterest is looking at. So it's looking at your the visual that you have. It's looking at the title. It's looking at the description. It's also looking at where other people save your boards. It's looking at a lot of different data. So it's not just like you can tell Pinterest like this is what this is about. This should rank top for like number one.
Mhm.
It's vetting all of these different reasons, right? Like similar to Google of looking at and plus looking at your actual website too. So the description just helps give it more context, and this is why Pinterest tends to take longer as well because it's looking at all of these factors. So the description is just another aspect of that, but I would not say it's the same as a caption, and that's why when Pinterest takes your content from Instagram, like if you set it up to just take your Instagram post, it's just taking your caption. I don't think that's often going to perform as well. But yeah, so not the same.
That makes sense.
So, kind of in this vein, like when you think about how most people are like first considering Pinterest, are there common misconceptions that people have that you end up having to correct frequently when you talk to people?
I would say the biggest thing is the what's going to happen when you kick off on Pinterest because it does take time, and that is the hardest part because I mean we like quick wins, and the platform, like I said, like I had a pin that took off, continued to take off for years. I think retraining your mindset around knowing that it's something that you're investing in to pay off in 6 months time is pretty average for you to start seeing like a big spike. And yeah, that's just a hard one because we're investing quite a bit sometimes in our time and our money if you're outsourcing it, but that is often the one.
Yeah, and then like that's pretty interesting. Of it's a lot closer. I know that you've been saying this throughout the podcast around like SEO and Google, how they think about algorithms for blog posts rather than like the comparison of this is a social platform and it performs in a similar way. And just kind of like shifting your headspace of like this performs like that and choosing your comps accurately is a much better way of like setting expectations, is what I'm hearing.
I'm curious because obviously things are always changing in the online landscape. and things rarely stay the same year to year, sometimes quarter to quarter. And with Pinterest having long-term results, I am curious, what are the strategies that you are seeing work really well right now?
Yeah, so in some ways it's been steady in the fact that it kind of keeps going with its SEO driven aspect. It had a phase for a couple years with idea pins, which it was like playing more in the social media space, but they did away with that. So the interesting thing is if you play like it kind of depends on how you want to position your platform, right? There's so many strategies that you can have. So you could focus on really evergreen content that then works for a really long time. Or I would say that they're moving a lot more into trends. And so I think they really pride themselves on being the go-to place for being on trend and being ahead of trends. They're always about like 3 months ahead. So that's like a tip for anyone too. Like you kind
That's
of need to
interesting.
think ahead for the holidays, because you're already too late if you're pinning something in
Okay, so you're
December for
saying
the
you want
holidays.
to start creating pins that would apply 3 months from now. So
Yeah.
start, like, if we're in February right now, start planning for spring or early summer.
Yep, exactly. And the reason that that's even more of an advantage when you're newer, that's I think how my pin got successful too. It was like on capsule wardrobes, one of
Mhm.
the first pins, and that was hitting, but it wasn't at the max popularity, right? And so if
Sure.
you pay attention to what's trending, you could possibly hit on a topic right when it starts to boost. And Pinterest gives you all of this data. It's on trends.pinterest.com. They've even like added more functionality to that. So that gives me even more of an indication that they're going to keep pushing for that to be like the go to place for being like ahead of the times, essentially. So, I mean, it's more relevant to some industries than others, right, to play that game, because Pinterest really does focus on about like 15, 20 niches the hardest. But I do think that it is applicable for a lot of business owners as well.
That is really cool.
One of the interesting things that I have yet to I don't spend a ton of time on Pinterest, so this might not be a relevant question, but like you see a lot of the other platforms right now are slowly like following the short form video transition of like they're starting to feature it like prominently center face. And as you think about Pinterest strategies, how does video actually play into that? Like, is it worth trying to think about video on Pinterest, or is it still more of like a stills and graphics game?
It's so interesting because when they pushed idea pins, that was like the thing to post on Pinterest, and it was changing quite a bit at that time period. I still have a lot of clients where their videos perform really well and like are their best performing. So I would say it depends. It depends a lot. I mean, I think actually we're kind of in a great place because a lot of these platforms are kind of asking very similar things of each other. Most of the time when our client comes to us and they have a successful Instagram or TikTok and they're just starting up blogs as well, like kind of layering content, I would say, like they have a mix of video and blogs are the ones who perform best because they already have the discoverability from these other platforms, right? Like your videos only work if you can land somebody who doesn't know anything about you and it makes sense to them. Like it can have that ability. I would say that would be the biggest factor. And then there is like search related to it, right? Like some topics are possibly too niche for Pinterest, but you never know as well. But there's the visual component of it all, which video plays really well into.
Yeah, I never use the video option. I That is an interesting question I never would have considered because I think of Pinterest for photos, like blog
Hmm.
posts, inspo photos. The videos that I see are for companies running ads.
Yep.
Is that typical to your
Well,
experience as well?
I will say like I said, it has changed with the idea pins because when they were doing the idea pins, they had like a whole feed dedicated to videos.
Yeah.
Um, so because of that, I have seen a dip in it for sure. But I would still say, like I said, still see clients with their top performing pins be videos. But, in industries also where it probably makes more sense, like food, bloggers, things like that.
That makes sense. Yeah, it's going to be different for different industries.
I think the thing that's interesting to me is like, as you have seen how people communicate recently, of like, as people are trying to catch more attention, people place a lot more emphasis on like the hook of an idea or a thought, or how you want someone to stop scrolling on as they're thinking about content. Do you think that hooks are different in Pinterest than other, because you're optimizing for like clickability or like search based hooks rather than like stopping a scroll type hook?
This is a good question. I think it's similar. It probably depends on the type of hooks you're using. Like, for example, I think a lot about trial reels and how that is probably fairly similar to how you might approach Pinterest in some of those hooks. But not if you're like, you're seeing this trial reel, like those kind of things that you tend to see. Because the interesting thing is everyone's sort of dabbling in the SEO game as well, right? On all these other
Mm-hmm.
platforms. So if I was to go into this brand new, the strategy I would have for every platform, and if we had full control over everyone, it's to play that SEO game while also trying to hit on like new people for all of the platforms. Like I think there's a world in which your one piece of content could work really well across. But yeah, you are focusing more on like audience, like calling out your audience or location. So like if you were a photographer in a specific location, Pinterest, you're going to really want to go hard on the location and that targeting. So I think that part of your strategy for how you label your content would be different.
It is interesting. Okay, I think we've asked a lot of questions. I'm going to share a question from one of our members inside of the break room. They submitted some, and so we chose one, and this comes from Kara. She asked, I think with Pinterest, I get hung up on the little details of creating a post. So beyond the graphic itself and what it links to, what is important for a post to perform well and give the results that you want?
You know, I feel like there is so much pressure on it, and I want to go back to the experimenting thing because I think when you're in the beginning, at least few months, you should really focus on just playing around and just like testing things out. You actually like won't have enough data. We tell our clients that the first 3 months are complete experiment phase. So we're testing out different styles of graphics. We're testing out different ways we're approaching the headlines that they have to work with, different keywords. We're doing a lot of keyword research, but we don't know what's going to perform well and what's not. And then after that 3 months, we start seeing patterns. So you start seeing like certain style of templates are performing better. And yeah, I just want people to have the permission to just play around for a bit without thinking too much about all of the strategy behind it, because we really do strategy in like multiple phases where we're like, okay, here we actually have enough information to work with. But yeah, you don't know until things start getting pushed by Pinterest.
Yeah, I love that you said that.
I think that segues like really nicely into something that I like to think about is when you start a new job, oftentimes companies will give you like a first 100 days plan of like, this is the milestones you want to hit. These are the metrics to like keep you on track to make sure you're doing the right things. And these are like the specific actions that you do to onboard and get up to speed in a new job. If you were to think about someone starting with Pinterest, like they've never done anything before, and that first 100 days, what would be like the big milestones for you? What are the metrics you think they should be tracking, and what actions between each milestone would you think they should be taking?
Yeah, so I would say on month 1, look at your profile. If you've had a personal account that you're transitioning over to a business account, that's fine. I would just go through and make sure to like make your boards secret boards for things that aren't relevant to your audience, and like optimize your profile. So again, if you're like a photographer in a certain area, you're going to want to put that on your name and your bio, like different keywords that would be relevant to somebody finding you. All you have to do to find that info, it's not the best. We use pin clicks, which gives more advanced information, so that's a good tool if you want to go the more advanced route. But all you have to do is search in Pinterest, and other search terms start popping up. So that would be a good initial thing to do in the first a month or so, is start a document that you start just writing down keywords that you discover that you want to start trying to target. It doesn't have to be advanced, just like start a document and then create a few boards. I have a board mapping exercise for your first 10 boards. That's free. I can give it to you so that you can
Yeah,
give
we
it
can link
to
it in the
anyone.
description.
But yeah, that helps you to like figure out boards for your audience, your topics, those kinds of things. So that would be the first month. Just setting up your boards.
Can I ask just like kind of follow up? If you're going through like a keyword exercise in that first month, like how many keywords should you actually be thinking about in like that list that you're thinking of?
I would think about the categories that you have the most content around. So maybe do it as well, doing like a little inventory of like, what is it that I want to post on Pinterest? Maybe you have 5 blogs to work with, 5 Instagram posts to work with, and you're trying to like add to it. Um, so look at those and then see what topics are you talking about in those areas, and then start to searching those. That's where I would start. And then maybe your audience as well, if your audience is like a big like niche category. And then maybe in that same month you're starting to like do your first pins, maybe designing, maybe even purchasing some templates on Creative Market, wherever, Etsy. You could also,
Or a side note, Coley has them.
yes, I also have templates for sale too in our Pinterest shop. And yeah, just playing around with a few templates to start with. And then month 2 would be making multiple graphics for every piece of content that you have. So every blog post can be 10 plus pins. Like you can reuse those posts a lot. And then month 3 would be when I would finally like take a look at my data. Like I wouldn't actually look at my analytics much before that, unless maybe you've been on Pinterest before, so you have a little bit to work with. You could do that at the starting point, but I really wouldn't look at that until month 3. And then seeing like after being consistent for a little while, maybe pinning 1 pin a day. Like it doesn't have to be a huge amount. I think that's a misconception as well. Like I know a lot of people who they're just like, they don't know what they're doing. They're just pinning a few times, like every once in a while, and then they see a pin start to get some traction, and that's what starts getting their attention for Pinterest. Like that's okay to start off that way, to just get a feel for the platform. And yeah, I mean, ideally you get to a place where you're pinning at least a couple times a day, but that would be my overall recommendation.
Love it. What a solid first 100 days plan. And with like getting to pinning twice a day, I assume there's certain platforms that could kind of automate that for people too.
Yeah.
Do you have like a platform of choice?
Tailwind has always been the platform of choice because they are one of the only that Pinterest actually like is in collaboration with, or whatever the right term
That's
is for
cool. I
that.
didn't know that.
So they also are the only tool I know of that actually like thinks about Pinterest and how it's different than other platforms. Other platforms just like,
Mm,
oh yeah, you can schedule your pins here too, but Tailwind takes into account your like the ideal time for your account. It allows you to
mhm.
like move pins around, and it also, like, one of my favorite features on it is it allows you to space your pins apart. So if you're pinning the same
Oh, that's cool.
URL, ideally you're pinning that URL a week apart is what I recommend. And so it does that automatically for you when you use that feature. So yeah,
That
it's
is
great.
amazing. Well, as always, I learned so many new fun things today talking with you. That was really interesting and helpful.
So if I kind of like circle back to like a blog post can be 10 pins, then that would be like those 10 pins should be over like 2.5 months and not all at once. Did I do that math
Yes,
correctly?
I think so.
So if I go back to like early in this, like you talked about the idea of there's like clickable pins, there's pinnable pins, and other types of pins. Would you focus on a certain type of pin in that first 100 days over a different type of pin?
I would go harder on the savable pins. So think graphics where all the information is there in the pin itself.
Hmm.
But I would also still have blog posts that are like pins for blog posts that require you to click out. Like I would do a mix of both, but I would go harder on the save worthy ones because again, that's what Pinterest is going to push out more. Because if it gets more saves, Pinterest pushes it out to more of an audience. And in that beginning phase, it really is Pinterest trying to understand what your content is about, which also is something to think about in your content is to go broad to specific just to get Pinterest a little warm to your content. So you could even, if you started a new board, you could add content from other people's pages to a board so that Pinterest starts to like understand what it is that your topics are about. There's little like techniques like that you could do in the beginning to just get Pinterest to know what you're talking about because it takes a surprisingly long time for them to know what your content is about.
They got to get to know you. They got to date you. That's so interesting.
As we kind of wrap up the section on Pinterest specifically before we get into our lightning round questions, is there any like question that you wish more people were asking about Pinterest?
It's a question, but I think one thing that we do different is a lot of research. Like we do a lot of research around like what is ranking at the top of Pinterest for certain keywords and like those kind of things that I think people don't realize goes into Pinterest management. And I don't know that it goes into like for everyone, but that is a huge part of what we do. So I feel like there's just a lot of, misconceptions about it being so similar to other platforms where it's like really we're doing a lot of research to figure out like how we can set your content apart and also like be similar enough to what's at the top that it can land there, you know?
That does stand out. I think
Yeah.
anytime someone takes the effort to do research, that alone just speaks volumes. Like you're going to take the time to learn what is working, but also make it apply to me. Yes,
Yep.
please. That's amazing. Kudos to you. Okay, well, I think that brings us into lightning rounds. So we're going to make it easy. There's only 3 questions that we have for you.
4.
There's a bonus 4th one that I don't know about. So drum roll, please. First question is, what is a routine that you cannot live without?
Oh my God, I'm in such a routine era right now. I guess going back to what I was saying about my creative block, that has really changed my life because I don't have my phone or looking at emails or anything during that time period. And I was jumping into work way too quickly. So I read a book with coffee before then I just jump on my computer and do like the fun work, and that routine has changed a lot because I also have a workout. Sorry, this is not rapid fire, but I have a workout
No, I love
routine in
this.
the middle of the day. And so for a long time, I was like, I'm not getting the things done that I want to do. And like we talked about, like not getting the creative stuff. So that morning block is everything.
On the trend of not rapid fire, you mentioned a book. Like, do you have a rec that we should be reading?
I'm really on a fiction kick. I know you guys for the
Tell
break
me.
room.
I need more fiction books in my life. I'm all ears.
I'm reading Throne of Glass right now.
Gosh, no. That's the one series I am terrified to commit to.
I know, they're so long. They're so long. I can't usually, but I'm like, we're in the winter, I feel like
Right.
'tis the season.
It's a rite of passage. That's amazing. I'm also a big routine girly, so I love hearing about other people's routines. And similar to you, I have to start with reading and coffee every day before I do anything else. So big fan.
Necessity.
So this could overlap with the last question, but what's something that's bringing you joy right now?
Ooh, taking Fridays off. I have really started to commit to that this year, and it's been just fun to think of the possibilities. It's a little harder with weather right now to like do everything that I want to be doing, but it is also just, I don't know, just made life more fun to think like an extra day
Yeah.
of just like figuring out whatever I want to do.
Yeah.
So
You get to fully enjoy your weekend and start it off just on a great note. I like that a lot.
it just sounds like you're trying to make Winter Fridays a thing.
No, it's year long.
Year long
Year-long
Friday.
Friday.
I'm sure we could start a campaign.
Okay, next question is, who are you learning from right now?
Good question. You guys are always there with the learnings. I'm always realizing, am I learning enough?
You know
Um,
us.
I am in, I think it's called Launch Your Own Way, with Kels McCormick. And so I'm learning launch strategies at the moment,
Love that.
which is fun because that's been like kind of a sticky area for me. I haven't really loved launching. So
Yeah.
it's fun to kind of like rewire that mindset.
Yeah, I love that. Many, many good things about Launch Your Own Way. That's very cool. All right, the
And
last
the
question.
last bonus question that Joelle didn't know about is, do you have any questions for us?
Ooh. Just maybe something around structure, like because I'm just trying to like optimize things. And I know you guys think about that a lot. So I don't know, that's too broad of a question, but if anything comes to mind around something you've been enjoying.
We have two different perspectives on this.
Oh, I was just going to clarify. Is this about structuring your routines or
Sure.
adding?
Yeah,
I'm
no,
going to
yeah.
let you answer this one.
I think for me, like something that I have been a lot more intentional thinking about recently is the idea of start with the end in mind. And like a lot of that is sure, we're at the beginning of the year. We just started February as of recording this, and like we're kind of in the end of the honeymoon phase of 2026 plans. And for a lot of people, like very exciting plans have fallen apart already because they planned a lot for 2026 and then like sticking with it is pretty difficult. Whereas like if you start with the end in mind, like one of the things that I put a big emphasis in last year was coming back from physical injuries. Like I messed up my knee when I was younger and like a collection of times I hurt it, and I was going to climb Kilimanjaro, and I had to start with the end in mind of like a big goal. And then I worked backwards, and I spent months like just walking unnecessary numbers of miles so that I felt reasonably confident to actually climb that mountain, which I subsequently completely messed up my knee and spent the rest of the year trying to recover it. But part of that for me was I can now place that same mindset into a lot of other things of how do I start with the end goal and work backwards of what are the routines I need to do consistently to get to this point in the end. And some of that is like you're doing, like read a book in the morning. And for us, like that might be business books because like I want to grow things. I want my business to be different in a year or two. And so I'm starting with the routines that get me to where I want to be.
I feel like I should clarify that he messed up his knee after he climbed the mountain, not before. So you still climbed. It was just on the way down. Oh, well, it
was on
but it
day
was during the climb.
3 of a 7-day hike.
It was not in training.
There was a lot of ibuprofen.
Dang. No, that's good. I think with that too, I always think of the way people think about goals. It's like there's a lot of different ways to get to that outcome. So the outcome doesn't need to change. It's your process could change along the way, right? Like that part
Yeah.
is flexible and then the goal is like not flexible. It's like this
Yep.
is what we're determined to do. So like if we need to pivot, it still gives like room for that throughout the year or throughout however long it is for the goal that somebody's looking at.
And I think a big thing for me is like if I start with the end in mind, I can like completely cycle through routines until I find one that works. Because assuming like the first plan will get you where you want to go almost never works. But if you know what you're solving for, you can keep experimenting until you find one that works. And that has been a lot better for me, just as I think about how my own brain works.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I love it.
Well, I think the very last question is how can people find you and connect with you?
We're over at lifegoalsmarketing.com, and for some reason I can't get the Instagram for those accounts.
No.
So it's at Life Goals Mag and at it's Coley Lane on Instagram. And yeah, you can work with us through Pinterest management, blog management. We also have blogging in a week, which is a really great resource if you don't have blogs to work with, but you're interested in Pinterest because it gives you 8 done for you blogs within 1 week of kickoff. So if you're like, I want to be on Pinterest right now, but I don't have the content, that's a great option.
Love that. Well, guys, please go check out all of her work. Coley is amazing, as I'm sure you could tell from this conversation. Like, this just scratched the surface. And on that note, if you guys really enjoyed this episode, you would really love the masterclass that Coley is teaching for our break room members. When this comes out, that will be available for the replay. So if you join the membership, the break room, you will get access to the replay for Coley's masterclass, Pinterest Like a Pro in 2026, even if you've never tried it before. So it's really good. You guys will love it. We'll drop all of the links in the description so you guys can check out anything that was mentioned in this conversation, as well as details for that masterclass and where to go connect with Coley moving forward. Thank you, Coley. This was amazing. As always, we appreciate you taking the time to just share your knowledge with us. And thank you guys for listening. We appreciate you too. See you next time.